season. Cahill! Everton have taken the lead! It was quickly worked and well taken by Tim Cahill.
Touched back and finished with aplomb by Tim Cahill.
This lucky ball, real chance! Goal for Everton!
Chance here, oh yes!
Smith drives it across the header now by Cahill, and Everton have their goal.
So we've got a goalkeeper and defence sorted. Now we're going to move on to the midfield. So the candidates are Joe Parkinson, Barry Horne, Mikel Arteta, Gary Speed and Timmy Cahill. So starting off with Joe Parkinson, those who can't remember, he was part of the Dogs of War midfield with Barry Horne, John Ebrell and the likes, and he used to kick everything that came near him. It was brilliant. I think he would have been a proper box-to-box midfielder if he played today. Only thing really lacking was his touch on the ball, but he could run, close players down, could win it, could give it to players with a bit more ability, and that's all we need in that team. We had players in that team during '95 and the '96 season that would get the ball and run with it, so he didn't need to do any of that. So he was brilliant. He put Portings on his arse big time in the FA Cup final in '95. Google it. There's this brilliant image of Roy Keane, Paul Ince flying up in the air and back down on his backside. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Bought him in from Bournemouth, an absolute unknown at the time. He was from Wigan originally, and we brought him in. Funny story, I nearly had the chance of meeting him once. We were staying up in a hotel in Liverpool. We'd gone to watch Everton against Spurs, which unfortunately we'd lost 1-0 thanks to Walker's son having an absolute worldie on the day. I can't remember what his name was. But yeah, so we were in a hotel, and Joe Parkinson and Anders Limpar just signed for the club on back in the day when we never used to have transfer windows. We basically could sign players whenever you wanted right up until the end of March, and we'd sign these two, and we'd signed Anders from Arsenal, we'd signed Joe Parkinson from Bournemouth, and they were both in the lift, and me and my dad and we were waiting for my granddad to come out. Granddad got stuck somewhere, so we ended up missing getting in the lift with him, which would have been an absolute, as an Evertonian who was probably 9 or 10 at the time, would have been fantastic, and I missed that opportunity unfortunately. But yeah, Joe Parkinson, you're a candidate because you just tackled everything that was going, and I wish we could have had a player like you in our current team. I think Idrissa Gueye is fantastic, but Joe Parkinson was an absolute monster. So moving on to Barry Horne. That's again, I always keep repeating this, but if you're born in the area that I was, we didn't have much to shout about. Who needs Cantona when we've got Barry Horne is a chant that will live long in the memory and will never get boring. He saved us. He put us on the road to redemption against Wimbledon with that half volley from 30 yards. Barry Davies, oh Horne! Just love it, absolute love it. It sends shivers down my spine. Yeah, what a day that was. Hopefully never to be repeated, touch wood. But yeah, Barry Horne had a brain about him. Goes box to box, would score from the outside of the box, had a real good shot at him, as I've just said. Part of the Dogs of War team, part of the FA Cup winning side in '95 has to be considered. Had a great Everton career and is held in real esteem at the club still, and does a little bit of media work. You hear him on Sky Sports now and again. But yeah, Barry Horne deserves to be in there as well, so well done Barry. Next up, the best little Spaniard we know until we sold him, and now we signed Gerard Deulofeu. But he's if you ever want to reminisce about Mikel Arteta, just watch the goal that he scored against Fiorentina. He was at the peak of his powers then. That UEFA Cup run in 2007-8, he was fantastic. Once we decided, when he first originally came to the club, played in midfield, was a little bit lightweight for the Premier League, so we stuck him out on the wing, and he was brilliant. He would win free kicks, could beat a man, had a little trick to come inside. Phil Neville would overlap, they'd play it out to him, ball go in the box, Timmy would find some space, bang, goal. And we got so many goals like that, and Mikel Arteta was such a player. Came in from Rangers on loan initially, and we signed him for 2 million, and it was what an absolute steal of a signing he was. We signed him for 10 million, he went to Arsenal when he was 30, 31, and probably was a good opportunity for him. He was never going to play in the Champions League with us, not at that stage anyway, where we had no cash going and all we were doing was signing loans or freebies. So I was absolutely gutted when he went to Arsenal. I remember in that August 2012, transfer window 2011. I was just gutted, stayed up all night hoping we were going to sign someone. We signed Strakolazi and Royston Drenthe on a loan, and he left for Arsenal. I was devastated. But what a player. He was an unbelievable player, proper cultured player, great right peg, maybe a little lightweight for the Premier League, but he put himself about and didn't let that hold him back, and him and Cahill built up such a great reputation, great understanding. Balls coming in the box, Cahill would get on the end of them, and Arteta not so good at corners. Free kicks when he first joined was brilliant. Then Bainesy took over from there, and yeah, Mikel Arteta deserves to be in there. Another player from the year, didn't win the FA Cup but joined the summer after we won the FA Cup, and that's Gary Speed. Such a sad story with Gary Speed. Obviously he's not with us anymore, but he joined the club from Leeds United in the summer 1996. 1996? No. Yeah, summer 1996. So the season after we won the FA Cup. So he came in for £3.5 million from Leeds United, and he was brilliant. People go on and bang on about Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard were the first ever box-to-box midfielders, first box-to-box goal-scoring midfielder, which is absolute tripe because Gary Speed was doing this when they were still in primary school. He was box-to-box, could play that number 10 role nowadays if he wanted, would play just in behind the striker, would play box-to-box, would sit in midfield if he needed to, play in that one of two in central midfield, could even play out wide to do a job. But Gary Speed was brilliant. He didn't stay very long, stayed for I think a year and a half, 2 years, before he left to go to Newcastle. There was a bit of dubious reasons for why he left, and he had to sign a confidentiality clause, but we all know it's because Howard had some serious issues that he wasn't allowed to speak about, and he obviously didn't agree with some of the issues that Howard was having at the time, so he left for Newcastle. We were all gutted that he left at the time, but when he was here he just scored goals. He just a brilliant goal scoring record when he was at the club, and just a shame he didn't stay a little bit longer, but he needs to be considered. He was part of that side that had Andre, Duncan, Gary Speed was himself, Graham Stewart, Anders Limpar. We had a real good attacking side at that point. Daniel Amokachi, and he was brilliant. And Gary Speed, God rest his soul, he deserves to be considered in the all-time Premier League 11, no doubt about it at all. Last but certainly not least is the Blue Kangaroo, Timmy Cahill. What is it to say about Tim Cahill? Bleeds blue. He's got a tattoo on his arm of the club. Came in from Millwall at a time when the club was on its backside. Rumours with Rooney leaving in the summer 2004. We'd signed Marcus Bent for £250,000. We'd signed some Australian kid called Eddie Bosnar that no one had heard of, and no one has ever heard of to this day. And we signed this lad from Millwall who we'd been keeping an eye on. And actually we signed him for 1.5 million. Sorry, I'm wrong. We signed for 1.5 from Millwall, and he just knew how to find space in the box. All action, all impact. Could run with the ball, didn't have a trick, didn't have much pace about him, but could run with the ball at pace. He would give it to the better players who could do something with it, and he would just get in that box. That first season I think he scored 13 from midfield, and we never had any midfielders that scored any goals, and he had such a wonderful Everton career. It was disappointing when he left in 2012, but I think it was probably a good time for him to move on at that point. Shame he didn't last, and he could have got a testimonial out of it, but Tim Cahill was brilliant. Loved scoring against Liverpool. Was always be up for the big games. Made his debut against Man United at Old Trafford. Came on, did the business. Didn't score. We got a point out of it. We never got a point on that those kind of days at Old Trafford. Liverpool, he's equalled Dixie Dean's record for goals against Liverpool, which I think, don't quote on me on this, but I think it's 5 in all derby competitions, and brilliant. From central midfield, obviously he played up front occasionally, and just he loved a headed goal, would be in the right place at the right time. If only we could have a 25-year-old Tim Cahill in this Everton team, would be unbelievable. With Lukaku scoring goals up front, Cahill scoring from midfield, would be a force to be reckoned with. Anyone, just Google Tim Cahill goals on YouTube. There's just so many to talk about. One of my favourites is the overhead kick at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the last minute. Goals against Liverpool, the one that he scored in 2010, which was our last victory against Liverpool by all means. Seamus beat his man and crossed it in, and Cahill was there at the front post, just smash it past Brad Jones. I remember he did this, to the fans, like, this for you, this is for you. He knew what it meant to the fans, and that's why we loved him, and we still love him today. He's a bit annoying on Instagram now. I've already really posted with the kids, but I know he's a Blue deep down, and we love you, Tim. And yeah, I could go on forever about Tim Cahill. But my fan site is named after the man, so we'll leave it there. It could get a bit mushy. So yeah, so Tim Cahill is the next player to be considered for the Everton all-time 11. So with 22, 33 and 42% of the votes, your three central midfielders for Everton all-time Premier League 11 are. So the team is starting to take shape. Now we need two wingers to go into this Everton all-time Premier League 11. So we've got three candidates for the two winging positions. So this was really hard to narrow down, mainly because we've had quite a few standout wingers in certain eras, but not a great collection. We've had some poor wingers down here, John Oster, named but one. But the three candidates for the wing positions are Andrei Kanchelskis, Anders Limpar and Steven Pienaar. So starting off with Andrei, what a signing he was when we eventually got the signing over the line in, I think, August, September 1995. Yeah, 1995. Andrei was unbelievable. Like, another player ahead of his time, could beat a man. Would if he isolated the fullback, he was done. He was on his arse and he was past him. He'd put the ball into space, he'd run into it. But he wouldn't just beat men, he would have this blistering shot that he would just, the power he would generate from his back lift and just smash it past the goalkeeper. Favourite, there's so many favourite Andrei memories. He was only here for a year and a half before he went off to Fiorentina when he got, I don't know, just lost his head and he wanted to move on. To that point, then he moved around lots of different clubs, Manchester City, Rangers. He'd had so many clubs, but Andrei Kanchelskis, during that year and a half he was at Everton, was unplayable. The goals he scored, we won at Anfield. Anyone who was born after '99 will not understand what a win at Anfield is like. He tore them apart. Second, 0-0 half time. Graham Shooter hit the crossbar first half. Andrei came in. I didn't come in. We came in second half. We won the ball back and he counter-attacked. Played it out to Rideout, who was in the right-hand side position. He got in the box like the centre forward, crossed it in, and he headed it past David James, 1-0 up. And then a couple of minutes later, Anders Limpar beats about 6 men in midfield, dances through, plays a little ball, and he's isolated the fullback. One touch, out his feet, gets in the box, smashes it low and hard. David James can't deal with the power, and it's in 2-0, absolute cruising. They pull one back, but we hold on when we win at Anfield, and it was absolutely brilliant. Dad, if you remember that day, we were in the Toys R Us car park, we were listening to 5 Live, and I remember the commentary, we're going back to Anfield, there's been a change in the score. We're like, oh no, we conceded, and we made it 2, and it was just brilliant. I was like, football is brilliant, like things like that. You remember times where you were when you heard a goal go in, or you remember a goal. Andrei Kanchelskis, what a player. Scored 16 from the midfield that season, and he scored so many goals where he isolated the fullback, beat his man and nailed it, drilled it in, or sucked the goalkeeper in round him and tucked it away. All action midfielder, was fantastic. Wish we had a player like him today. He's like Gerard Deulofeu, but he's actually got some end product. It wasn't great crossing the ball, but most of the time he just had to run past and drill it in or shoot. Like, he didn't have to take 14 touches like Gerard. Gerard, I think you're a good player, but you need to watch Andrei Kanchelskis because he was a proper winger, an absolute proper winger. So next up, Anders Limpar, who, funny enough, played on the other wing to Andrei. So we had Anders on one, Andrei on the right, and although it was confusing for commentators, we should have loved it as Everton fans back in the 90s. Anders was a tricky winger, came in from Arsenal, was a boy Everton fan, funny enough, from Stockholm, but loved the Blues. We get everywhere, we know that. But he was just brilliant. He was a tricky winger, could beat his man, could come inside. He was a right foot, but played on the left wing. Everyone who can remember that fateful game against Wimbledon. Excuse me, pardon me. Everyone who can remember that day against Wimbledon, he handballed it after about 5 minutes and they scored a penalty. And I think that was 1-0, and then Gary Ablett scored an own goal, 2-0 down. We won 3-2, and he pulled us back into the game with the penalty. I thought it was fouled personally, but a lot of people thought he took a dive. But he won the pen. Graham Stewart slotted and we were back in the game 2-1. When Barry Horn equalised and then Graham Stewart scored the winner after a 1-2 Ikotti. But he had a massive impact from that day, and from the moment Joe Roll came in, he was a brilliant player. Could cut in on the right peg, shoot from range, used to cross the ball in from wide positions for Duncan and Amo and Paul Ryder at the time, and he was a really good player. As I mentioned when I spoke about Andre, he beat about 4 or 5 players that time at Anfield, and if you get to see that footage, then just watch the wing play. It was just absolutely, it just took the whole of their team out of the game and just left Andre isolated outright, and as he said, the rest is history, and he scored that fantastic goal. So Anders Limpar, you set us up in the 1995 Cup final. You made that brilliant ball to Matt Jackson, who crossed it. Graham Stewart hit the post, hit the crossbar even, and then Paul Rydap scored. So Anders, even me, I'm getting confused now. Anders Limpar, you deserve to be a candidate for that wide left position. Last but not least, Stephen Pienaar. Stevie P, absolute wizard. Arrived on loan again, another David Moyes absolute steal. Some of the players Moyes got in for the money he did was just unbelievable when we look back on it. £2 million we signed him for originally. After that first season we paid £2 million to sign him on a permanent basis, and he was just brilliant. He was just, him and Baines, we spoke about them earlier on, but him and Baines just built up this unbelievable just understanding on that left hand peg, their left hand side, underlapping, overlapping. Would never have the most pace in the world, but always seemed to have a trick to beat a man, to give him that yard to either play it in or to cross it or to have a shot. He's fantastic, absolute unbelievable signing for what we paid for him. Had that little saying with Dave Unsworth, end up going away and coming back. Once Everton touches you, nothing else matters, and that's absolutely true. Pienaar came back, and I think he had about 8 seasons at the club over 2 separate spells, and he was just brilliant. In the Premier League era, he's been our Premier League era. From the David Moyes era onwards, modern day Premier League, he's been our best winger. Like, just the goals we got on that left hand side channel was just brilliant, and the tricks that he used to come up with, the back heels, the little flicks. I remember him scoring at Sunderland in the year we got to the cup final, and he just did this like pirouette backwards somersault after he'd beaten 3 men and held the 4th before he tucked it away. Was absolutely brilliant. So Stephen Pienaar, he's another candidate for this position. So the winners with 82 and 13% of the vote, our 2 wingers are right. So we've got our team sorted, which is bar one position, that'd be centre forward. So as Evertonians, we love a centre forward. We've loved number 9s down the years. We've had some imperious number 9s. So this position is really important to Evertonians. So thanks for voting for this one and only position. But we've had a few candidates, especially in the Premier League years. Starting off when I first started watching football, we had a little centre forward called Tony Cottee, who at the time when we signed him for literally best part of a week was the British record transfer fee ever paid for a player, and we paid, I think it was about 2 million from West Ham. So he joined, and he was an absolute fox in the box. So in the early Premier League years, just knew if it was in and around the 6-yard box, Tony Cottee was finishing it. But I can remember this goal he scored against Liverpool. He beat them 2-0 at Goodison, but in 1993. And he beat about 3 players. And I remember the commentary was Cottee, still Cottee, still Cottee, still Cottee, and he just slotted it under Grobbelaar and whirled away. We won 2-0. I can always remember that game because Steve McManaman and Steve Grobbelaar were playing handbags with each other. We'd scored, Mark Ward had smashed one in first half, and Steve Grobbelaar weren't too happy with Steve McManaman, and Steve McManaman ended up slapping Bruce Grobbelaar. It was like handbags at 5 paces, but it was hilarious from an Evertonian point of view. I'd love to see that nowadays. But yeah, back in the day, TC, proper centre forward. I remember he scored a hat-trick in Mike Walker's first game when we beat Swindon, I think it was 6-2 at home. Peter Big, we scored, did a backward flip, and Cottee scored a hat-trick, one being a pen. But yeah, I can remember Tony Cottee with real affection. He left, unfortunately, to go to... went back to West Ham, which left us a striker light. We was searched for a striker, weren't scoring many goals. Mike Walker was about to be shipped out, so he ended up going to Rangers and picking up some lad on loan. He brought 2 lads in. I want to say Paul Durant, wasn't Paul Durant, I can't think what his name is. Durant and Big Dunk were brought in on loan. Mike Walker didn't last more than a week later, and then Joe Royle came in, and we had the Merseyside derby against Liverpool. You all know who I'm talking about. Another Andy Hinchcliffe corner, and the big man got his head on it, and he wrote his name into Everton folklore. And as they say, the rest is history. Big Duncan Ferguson, the big man, the big yin. My idol when I was growing up. Just everything about him, he just understood what it was to be an Everton player. And a lot of players like Big Nev, David Unsworth, Dave Watson, obviously barking at him, telling him, making him understand what it is to be a Blue. But he just bought into the city, he understood the people of Liverpool, he understood Evertonians, and he wore his heart on his sleeve. Had a dubious disciplinary record, let it ball over a few times, but he was just such a winner, and he just didn't give it up at times. And there's so many Big Dunk stories to talk about, but he just loved it. He loved the big games, especially. We're always up for the games against Liverpool and Man United, and well, just when we needed a hero, and at a time where heroes are really few and far between, Big Dunk was that man, and he stood up and was counted. Don't ever piss him off. That all I'd like to say. Stefan Freund, to that photograph of Stefan Freund get throttled at Leicester is absolute comedy genius. Big Dunk is just brilliant. Just he pissed him off clearly enough, trying to get him sent off. So what I do, you get me sent off, I'll throttle you, you little shit. And it was just brilliant. But so many goals he scored. He was brilliant in the air, but he didn't get enough credit for being like, oh, good touch for a big man, you know, like the old saying goes. He was brilliant on the floor. Back to goal, half volley, back to goal, swivel, left peg, goal. He scored 2 against Wimbledon, where we just pinged at him from about 40 yards from Unsworth. Chest high, took one touch, swung, hooked it over his shoulder in the top corner, past there, Neil Sullivan I think it was at the time. And it was just scored some really, really good goals. And so Duncan, you were one of these. You were a candidate clearly, obviously, for Everton. And he's obviously, I have to add, he's our Premier League highest goal scorer at this moment in time. Still, after all the years, nobody scored more Premier League goals than Big Duncan. So for that alone, he's got to be considered with Premier League all-time 11. So next up is who it is Super Kev. How can I forget? Legend. Duncan left. He went to Newcastle. Left is really short with centre forwards. Was in the relegation zone, struggling to get results, and Walt Smith signed this lad from Trabzonspor. He used to play for Arsenal and he used to play for Notts Forest before he went over to abroad to play football, and we brought him in on loan. Another brilliant loan to a permanent deal. He scored, I think he scored 10 in 9 or 9 in 10 at the end of that season, and essentially his goals kept us up. He scored 2 against, he scored 1 against Cov, scored 2 against Charlton, scored twice against Newcastle. He scored a hat-trick against West Ham, and if anyone has the opportunity to spend some time in Kevin Campbell's presence, he's a proper, genuine gentleman. Like, he loves the club. He was born in as an Arsenal fan. He always says, like, it's like a marriage or a love affair. Like Everton is the love affair. He just loves the club. He loves everything about it, from the club, the tradition, the family side of it, and he bought into it. And he was a proper goal scorer. And we needed someone at that time. We had no heroes to get our teeth into as fans. We were lacking so much quality in those late 90s, early 1000s teams, and he came in and he scored goals. He consistently scored goals. Was never the same player after he had his knee operation, and he ended up getting a clotting on his knee. Never had any pace after that, but he always scored goals. Put it in the right area, Super Kev would get his head on it. Whether that be free kicks, whether that be from corners, he'd make sure he'd get on the end of crosses, and he'd run through brick walls for the club. Shame the way it faded out, and he ended up leaving for West Brom in 2005, when he probably could have stayed a bit longer and given the likes of James Vaughan and Adeshabi a bit of development, a bit of coaching and that kind of thing. But Super Kev, I think you're brilliant. You deserve to be in that team. Everyone loves that Super Kev song. I remember being my own personal memory of Super Kev is we were at Coventry City the day you got the captain's armband. We had 11 first team players injured. I think it was 2000-2001 season. We had 11 first team players out, but you stood up and you were counted that day. You got the armband, which for Everton traditionally have had such a bad reputation when it comes to black players and the abuse they used to get. Everyone knows this. I'm not saying anything that's new, but Super Kev came in and he's one of the few black players we had in the 90s and the early thousands. Earl Barrett, Amo, him. There weren't many others, unfortunately. And but Kev got the armband. He was the first black Everton captain, and I remember him going to an evening with him, and he said what an honour that was to be Everton's first black captain. And I remember he scored twice, and he came over to the fans at the end, and he was giving super Kev, and it was just brilliant. The hairs stand on the back of my head now. He had the armband, was point to the armband and the badge, and he just knew what it was to be a blue and to be an Everton number 9, and he was honoured to be an Everton number 9. When Duncan did come back again, never really happened with them as a pair. I think they were maybe too similar, wanting the ball in the same kind of areas. They always work better with a little man, whether that be Rooney or whether that be Rudzinski. They work so much better to Big Dunk or him with either pair. I think Campbell, Rooney and Rudzinski was such a great partnership, whether it be for Rooney coming on for half an hour, Rudzinski with him, which used to be the running, and they just worked so well together. That period, that year we finished 7th, Kevin Campbell, Rudzinski, that real quality. We really put teams to the sword, and Super Kev holding the ball up, flicking it on, Rudzinski running on to lose balls, brilliant. So Kev, you're in. Tommy Rudzinski, funny enough you're not, but Super Kev, you're in. Next up, another player that divides opinions, Wayne Rooney. You have to consider Wayne Rooney for Everton's all-time Premier League 11 because of what he brought. Literally, probably at Everton, I've never been so excited over a 16-year-old than I was with him. sounds a bit wrong, that, but I probably can't reword that. But Wayne Rooney was so exciting. It was so exciting. Every time when he burst on the scene, everyone remembers the Arsenal game, but prior towards, like, he scored at Wrexham, he looked like things were going to happen. He made his debut against Spurs where we drew 2-2 first game of the season, and everyone was talking about this young 16-year-old, that he's got the ability, he's quality, he's going to come through, he's going to be the best striker in England's ever had. Fast forward how many years, and he has been. He's record goal scorer now for England. He's had some career at Manchester United, but Everton, he hit the ground running and he was brilliant. He was just so exciting. Every time we got the ball, it looked like things were going to happen. The goal he scored against Arsenal was just, to be there that day was just so special. I remember to my dad, and my dad turned around and was like, just hit it, God, hit it, kid, hit it. And I was like, he's not hitting it. He scored, and it was just like incredible. I've been to Goodison for years, and that day, Fiorentina, the place rocked. Like, I've not known atmosphere like it. Liverpool in the cup game in the replay, I wasn't there unfortunately, but everyone says it rocked that day as well, and it shook its foundations when Rooney scored against Arsenal, and they stopped there. Was it 28 games had been unbeaten at that point? Obviously a year later they went unbeaten the whole season, but at that point they'd beaten Liverpool and Notts Forest record of going a period of games without getting beat, and we stopped it, and Rooney stopped it, and he nearly had a second. He chipped Dave Seaman with the outside of his peg, and it just dropped onto the roof of the net, and that would have been an even better goal if you ask me. But Rooney deserves to be in there. He scored some absolute pearls. I remember him scoring a winner at home against Villa. He volleyed it. We were poor that day, 1-1, and in stoppage time he smashed it in. Scored some important goals that second season. But for whatever reason, he just didn't give us that much time. I understand he's gone on to Manchester United and he's had an amazing career. He's won everything there is to win in the modern game, I think. He's won every competition going. I think, barring the FA Cup, has he won the FA Cup? I'm not too sure. I think that's the only thing he's not won as a Manchester United player. And he can't... He's gone on. He's made a career for himself. I just think he could have given us a couple more seasons. He was 17, nearly 18 at the time when he went, and he was unbelievable at the Euros. The reason he was so good at Euros was the reason why he went on to Manchester United. He had the United players, or the ex-Man United players in his ear going, you need to come here for Champions League football. Everyone goes on about how wonderful Champions League football is. It's okay, don't get me wrong, I wish we were in the Champions League, but at the end of the day, Premier League football is Premier League football, and he could have given us a couple of more years. 2 years is not going to make a massive difference to him, but he did. He left. We were all gutted. I was devastated. I don't think I've ever been so gutted up until Mikel Arteta left, when we lost an actual player that he wanted to leave, and the fact when he handed him transfer question was just absolutely devastating. But yeah, but Wayne Rooney, for those 2 years, you were brilliant, and for that alone, you deserve to be in the team. Last but not least is our current. He's not number 9 because that'd be Kone, but he's our leading centre forward, and that's Romelu Lukaku. Unfortunately, I wish his talent was as big as his ego, because he'd be like Messi if that was the case. But he's a brilliant player. He's a brilliant goal scorer, and as I mentioned before, I wish Cahill could be at his peak playing with this lad, because he would just score for fun. Absolutely score for fun. He's a brilliant player. Knows where the goal is. If he gets fed the ball in the right areas, you know there's going to be goals. If he could play on the shoulder a bit more, I think he'd get so many more goals. The amount of times he's got his back to goal is a shame. But after the end of the season, if he has a decent season, and when I say decent season, I say anything between 12 and 20 goals, it'll be Everton's leading Premier League goal scorer of all time. So for that alone, the lad needs to be considered, because he will have scored more goals than anybody else. And what do goal scorers pride themselves on? Scoring goals. If they don't score goals, they're not happy. So Romelu, you deserve to be in there. One player I have forgot to mention is a certain 22, 23, 24. No one ever knew how old he was Yakubu. Yakubu Igbeni was a brilliant player. Brought him in from Middlesbrough for 11.25 million, I think, at the time, which was a record for us. We never signed players for money at that point. And he was just brilliant. He was a natural goal scorer. Just like, you put him in the right place at the right time and he would get goals. The first season he scored 21 goals in all competitions. We got to the League Cup semi-finals. We got to the what is the Europa League? It was UEFA Cup, the last 16, when we lost to Fiorentina on pens. And we also finished 5th in the league, and we just dropped away and just missed out on 4th in the end. But he was brilliant. Feed the yak and he would score. Anyone who can remember a bit of that, just Super Eagles with Joey Obo, he was brilliant. It was fantastic. Loved taking his time coming back from international duty though, as Moyes found out and fined him a few times. But as soon as he got back in the team, once again, the yak was scoring. Feed the yak and he would score. And remember the game against Portsmouth, and I think Defoe had scored to make it 1-0. Think we equalised shortly after, but it was 1-1 for ages, and Yak just tied up Sol Campbell, the right hand side of the 6 yard box, turned him and just smashed one past David James with a left peg. Cahill scored a third, but I just remember Yak just being unplayable that day. We beat Newcastle last game of the season to guarantee 5th place. Villa on our heels, and he just scored this brilliant penalty, just chipped it down the middle, and keeper, I think it was Shea Given perhaps, or Steve Harper, he was on his arse, just didn't know which way to go, and he was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic for that short period. That first year was brilliant. Then he petered off. The start of the second season, he started really well. He scored about 4 in about 5 games, and then he did his Achilles tendon against Spurs, and he came back a year and a bit later, but literally was never the same again. Didn't have any pace. His movement was poor, and he didn't really get more opportunity after that. He scored 4, 5, 6 goals in the next 3 seasons. And then we let him go to Leicester, but then he managed to rediscovered his form, even probably Tegan. He rediscovered his form at Blackburn, and he scored about 80 in the Premier League that season. He went to Blackburn, but unfortunately for him, it never worked out at Everton in the end. But for his goals in that first season, and he's fact scored 21 goals at a time we'd never had a goal scorer Premier League centre forward. Even Fergie and Super Kev never got to those kind of figures, and they've been considered. So for Yak alone, he needs to be considered as well. So the winner, the number 1 Everton centre forward is. Well, there you have it. The Everton all-time Premier League 11, as voted by you, KO Corner Flag viewers. I'm sure you agree. I think it's a brilliant team. It's got a real good mixture of hard working and an absolute quality in there in the final third. I feel a bit for the 2 central defenders, Dave Watson and Phil Jagielka. Apart from those 2, it's quite an attacking team. I think it would scare teams to death with its pace and attacking presence, but I'm on the back foot. I'm not sure how good it'll be, but I think it's a brilliant side, a mixture of real past Everton legends and some modern day heroes as well. So a little bit for everything, a little bit for everyone, I think. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit different this week, but I'll be back next week with hopefully recapping some of the Man City games. So let's get through this boring international week and back to footy that matters next Saturday. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.